boys and girls. Welcome back to reading. Today, we're going to read Martin Luther King Jr. one more time. In our last lesson, we learned that the author's purpose for writing this was to inform. Today, we're going to look back closely and see if we can identify how we figured out that this book was written to inform. Let's get reading. Today, people of all races celebrate Martin Luther King Jr. Day. But when Dr. King was a boy, he couldn't even go to the same school as white children. He couldn't play in the same parks or eat in the same restaurants. He couldn't drink at the same water fountain as white people. But his mother always told him, "ML, don't you ever forget that you are just as good as anybody." In the beginning, the author is informing us about the things Martin Luther King Jr. and other black children weren't allowed to do because of the color of their skin. Martin knew it wasn't fair that black people weren't treated the same. This is why he fought for black people to have the same rights as white people. Young Martin believed that. He believed it so much, he grew up to teach that message to the world. Dr. King said, "You are just as good as anybody," and many people believed him. Black people sat quietly at lunch counters just to show that they belonged there. They refused to ride buses that made black people sit in the back. They walked alone into schools to prove that black children had a right to learn besides white children. And because so many people believed Dr. King, at last they changed this country's laws. Look, the author is informing us about Dr. King's message and about how people spread the message. What did they do? They marched, sat at lunch counters, refused to sit at the back of the bus. The author also shows how Dr. King did not believe in fighting or violence. He wanted people to use peaceful words and actions instead. Children of all races now learn at the same schools. They play in the same parks. They sit wherever they like on buses. They eat in the same restaurants. They drink at the same water fountains. Because of Martin Luther King Jr., children of all races now walk together as sisters and brothers. What word did you hear that told us that the author is talking about the present? You're right, the author said now. How did Martin Luther King Jr. help change the lives of children today? He fought for equal rights so people of all races and skin tones would be treated fairly. Do you remember how I told you we were going to figure out why the author's purpose was to inform? Did you notice that the events were told in order? It really helped build my perspective of how the events in the past affected our present day. Pretty cool stuff. Thanks for reading with me today, friends. Bye!